Ciao.
Sono cat.
Y sono Gabe.
Noi siamo
Ghouls next door. Woo!
Guys, we're so great at saying 2 words, and there's more than that, but like in any language, we're just doing a really good job.
Hello in all the languages so far.
Yeah, the only one that was hard for me was Korean.
Korean was very hard.
Yeah, it's just very different.
Words. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool though.
But cool.
If you don't know, that was Italian that we were speaking to you.
Yeah, let's give you some context,
Yeah.
We're just saying, like, you just know. Guys, listener, you just know.
What do they know?
That we're in love.
Oh.
Because we're talking about some romance languages, specifically today, Italian.
Gotcha.
Do you see what I did? It's so great. Oh my God.
It took a minute to get there, but we got there, which is important.
Like most of my jokes.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing Italian, so this is going to wrap up our foreign horror series for right now. That's not to say that there won't be foreign horror in the future, because there's a lot of countries that are not ours who make horror movies, and albeit very good ones, and don't get enough credit. And we have learned a lot about all the different countries that we've talked about, and we've learned a lot about how what your country has gone through greatly influences the lens in which you look at media.
Yeah, media, or specifically horror historiography, if you will.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, I get to use my degree. Haha, everyone who said I wouldn't. What's up? History.
Yeah.
It does stuff.
Yeah, we, in the whole time, what I found in this series is that we haven't been able to watch everything that's, like, suggested. And that's not to say that we don't want to. It's just we don't have a lot of time. And our episodes are only an hour. We can't cover all of them.
Yeah. So, like, it's just a kind of subtle one day. And if you feel really strongly about it, tell us. Like, my friend told me that, like, what, you didn't do Chinese horror films? And I was like, tell me about some.
Yeah.
And they were like, you have to see these. They, like, ruined my sister's, like, emotional state for, like, a whole year. And I was like, what? So, like, yeah, there's other places. There's other places we haven't been. And we're going to go. And maybe if we didn't cover something in, the places we have been, you can go back,
Yeah.
We are still alive.
And what I found about Italian horror specifically is that we have talked about very popular Italian horror films previously in other episodes, because they are really profound in either the genre that they come from, or they have something very unique to them that was worthy of speaking. So like Cannibal Holocaust, which we talked about in found footage, and Suspiria, which was our horror movie film score. So talking about the music that's in there, because that was a very, very unique soundtrack, and it was designed for that. So I'm not going to be surprised if we run into them. If we talk about them again, yeah. Or if we eventually do have to watch Giallo, which we did not.
Yeah.
Just going to put that out there.
One thing I'll say that's really interesting about Italy and their horror films is they're always doing something a little extra.
Yeah.
They're taking a thing you thought you knew about. I mean, like, you thought you knew.
Yeah, you thought you were comfortable.
Guess what? We did the thing that you thought you knew and made it just real extra.
Yeah.
We added 8 million plus to that in a unique and very Italian way, or at least that's, what we read about.
Yeah.
And you thought it was one thing. You thought that thing couldn't be done again. And we did it, but it's different. It's unique, and it's extra. It's more colorful. There's more music, Suspiria was all color and sound.
Yes.
Like Cannibal, very realistic violence and gore.
Or hyper-realistic violence and gore. Yeah, I would say it's like they have an appreciation for all types of media and genres and cultures, and then take those and they're like, I really like this thing. How can we make this Italian? Which has been this whole thing, which is cool.
And what we see is that, I guess, to make it Italian, you make it
more.
Extra. You make it more. You go to the extremes.
Yeah.
And that's what we got.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for listening. We love you. We tell you facts. All the facts. Your facts. Stuff facts. About that spooky stuff. Yeah, spooky stuff. Perhaps.
Stay Alive.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, let's talk about Italy.
Yes.
As we said we were gonna. So, we pulled from 2 specific places, or 3, we did some research, as we do.
Yes.
So what we kind of found out is that, the really early emergence of, like, film in general, but especially in reference to Italian horror, it really seemed like it was going to become a promising addition to what we see kind of like in mainstream horror today, when you start to see like some of the really new films in like 1910 to 20s when film existed, you know what I'm saying? Because they really seemed like they were pushing the boundaries of like what special effects could be for that time period, and approaching moral and religious issues in a unique and arguably very Italian way. So it really seemed like they were going to be like doing it. They were going to do the extra stuff from the beginning, and then they just didn't because of a lot of reasons. So, as it happens, similar to some of the other countries we've talked about in this series, we're pulled the plug on creative freedom. And you add fascism in as well, and you sort of get a better understanding of what happened to Italian horror and why it took a different direction than what we saw in France or Japan or Korea in the post-World War II realm. So if you didn't know, in 1922, Benito Mussolini led the establishment of the fascist regime in Italy, preaching freedom from the Savoy monarchy, the official policy being autonomy. So by definition, the capacity of an agent to act in accordance with objective morality rather than under the influence of desires. So, as we see in Daenerys Targaryen and Mussolini, we're gonna set these people free from tyranny.
By putting them under our tyranny.
With blood and violence. So it's just sort of strange when you see someone argue for freedom in a, like, definition. Kind of that euphemism mentality of, like, that you see in dictatorships. You saw it in the Mao Zedong era of China. You see it in Mussolini, Italy. And they just use it as a way to be like, hey, we're going to go do some real authoritative dictatorial murder. What's up? You're going to listen to us or you're not going to have yours. I don't understand. What's the problem? You're free. So what? But
free to. You owe us.
Free with quotes. So,
Freer.
But what's really interesting about the Mussolini regime is that it offered heavy support to the film industry to convey that message. It's like freedom, but my freedom.
Propaganda.
Watch a film about it. So they give them a ton of money. And we see that with the creation of, what's it called? The Cinecittà, said it wrong, I'm sorry, Studios, which is the largest film studio in Europe.
Oh.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time.
Oh, no.
So Mussolini remarked that cinema is the most powerful weapon that you can have. And he used that weapon to basically be like, hey, listen to me. Create propaganda to push his agenda kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of film.
Yeah.
Lots of them. But horror kind of just takes like a back pedal. Like, it's just like,
they don't want horror to be known.
Yeah, they didn't give a voice to horror. It's the narrative of horror is kind of gone.
Because that's freedom in itself, is when you tell stories through horror lens.
Yeah, it's honesty, but also, like, creativity. And that's not what you need in your fascist regime.
No.
You think fascism, you're like, hey, let's throw a lot of, like, colors and creative stuff in there. So that kind of, like, messed that whole thing up. So you see nothing but censorship. Italian films produced in the late 1930s were just basically all propaganda films, and are no longer findable to ghouls like us. So any horror films that existed before then or like tried to exist and were banned through censorship, like it's very hard to find them. So it's not saying they weren't ever doing a thing, but no one was able to see it.
Like kind of like the Korean films that we missed out on.
Internationally we lose out on a lot of that.
Yeah.
So they're no longer findable. It's sad. But post-World War II Italy saw the rise of influential Italian neorealism movements, which we'll talk about a little bit, with the launching of directorial careers of Luciano Visconti, Roberto Rossellini, and Vittorio De Sica.
Woo.
Hopefully I said this right. But just as it begun, neorealism declined in the late 1950s in favor of lighter films. So we start to see that, like, oh, you can't make a film, but if you make a film, we don't want to watch it because we have a lot going on.
Yeah.
And we want to focus on lighter things. So you have a really big success of commedia all'Italia genre. So directors like Fellini and, I can't say his name. Michelangelo Antonioni. And actresses like Sophia Loren, Giulietta Messina, Gina Lolo Brigida.
Excellent.
My bad. Achieved, their international stardom. But you see a lot of comedies. You see a lot of, like, slice of life films in this neorealism period.
Yeah.
But you don't see a lot of horror. So the horror kind of gets a backpedal, keeps that backpedal. And it does show up here and there. But what's interesting is that a lot of their films were either ignored globally and received a lot of revere at home, or ignored at home and revered globally by horror fanatics like us.
Yeah.
So you kind of don't really get a middle ground. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what we do see is a lot of, in our, I guess, the films that we watched, a lot of sexuality and graphic violence as a theme. So arguably commenting on the horrors taking place on the ground during the war and living in a fascist empire, it dove deep in all the extreme ways that, we kind of talked about. It was like bright and loud and graphic. But what's like troubling about it is that a lot of it is graphic violence against women and using women and violence against them as a plot point or just like entertainment value. And it's usually very over the top, kind of making women not seem like people and making them seem like butchered meat. And you kind of see that, and that's not good. But it's problematic, but here we are.
Yeah. That's a history of horror all the time.
But while neorealism exploded after the war and was incredibly influential at the international level, neorealist films made up only a small percentage of the Italian films produced during this period, as post-war Italian moviegoers preferred escapist comedies starring actors such as Toto and Alberto Sordi. With the realities of war and the corruption both in government and religion, Italians sought films that documented and spoke to everyday life, but in a nicer way. Mm-hmm. Presented it symbolic and allegorical in a way to question what was happening around them, but not going too far, like horror kind of does.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of, like, I guess melodramatic, like, what is happening in our world, but masked in kind of like lighter things. So you don't, But then, as life goes on, you start to really see the very brief stint of very graphic horror films, which we watched some of. But before that, you kind of see another decrease. So you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. But an analyzer, I guess, of sorts, Steiny points out how in 1963 there was a significant decrease overall in communal and collective activities in Italy, which is kind of why horror took another back step, because people would generally go to the theater to see a film. But with like the rise of VHS tapes, people didn't really want to go to the theater. They no longer were in awe of watching films that spooked and grossed out them in a small burst of time in a crowded place. Yeah. They wanted to do that in the privacy of their own homes, or not at all. Yeah. But you also saw like a substantial number of Italians no longer going to church and buying televisions. So they wanted to kind of enjoy a more passive and familial use of leisure time. Yeah. Which, I mean, if your life's really stressful and hard, that makes sense.
Yeah, and religion definitely influenced most of their films in some way. Either it was against that and against that kind of tyranny, or it was like if you let go of your religion, you're in trouble kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Like moral questions and themes being like masked in there. Yeah. Because you can't make it too overt or it gets taken away.
Yeah, exactly. It's not allowed.
But yeah, and you also see just the use of a lot of iconographic, so like masking what they're trying to say. But we really see that in the film genre that we're going to talk about in Bava's Giallo and subsequently in Argento's critiques later as a mechanism. The films are a mechanism through which you can critique the patriarchy, capitalism, and at times imperialistic impulse. I don't know if they do that.
I think in a way, sometimes they were trying to.
I think they were trying to. I would say that. But shout out to 100 Years of Cinema for helping us make some sense out of maybe what... I don't know if it made sense to y'all, but it made sense to me a little bit. So thank you to them for kind of like making a video slice of life for us to explain what that's about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like Kat said, Italian films had favored popular films of the time. Like, so they were kind of mimicking in a way, but in their way. Right. So prior to the 80s and 90s boom in Hong Kong action movie imports, Italy was well known for its Western films in the 60s.
Spaghetti Western.
The Spaghetti Western.
Bob's Burgers talks about that and it's cute.
Or it's also known as sword and sandal epics. Yeah. I don't know why.
Sword and sandal epics?
Yeah. But they were really... Because, I mean, you know, the Western is very clearly...
It's a Greek play.
Yeah.
The epic.
The epic. The, you know, American Western, right? It's such... That's, like, a quintessential American film. But the spaghetti Westerns were these, like, Italian takes on that. And they took that same, like... brutish nature and stuff.
That, or
I don't know.
Because it's like
it could be super.
Is it because you make pasta? That's kind of rude. It's like naming the killer condom detective macaroni.
Yes. Oh God, that wasn't our fault. We didn't do that. But up so way before even that, right? So up until the 60s, the genre was nearly silent. Right, because of that, it just like didn't have an opportunity to really flourish because it didn't have a place. It was just too much for a period that should have been just like everything's fine, it's all good.
Yeah, or we always get to argue like horror is really the place where people get to say more. That was the problem, you know. We don't want you to say more. There's no says. There's no words.
Exactly.
Watch Slice of Life fun.
Yeah. Bicycles are stolen. That's the greatest tragedy we have. That's it. Bicycle thieves.
That's so nice here.
And it's still fun. Yeah, but I mean, even so before the fascist regime, in the 1900s, they flourished and had, like you said, this opportunity to do that. Finally, but it was like 1900s films. They were very artistic and unique and
because they had visceral. To do a lot with very little.
Yeah. So in the 1960s, we'll flash all the way forward to when it really started to kick back up. It found its footing in films like I, Vampiri, which kind of broke Italy out of this lull and into the horror genre. So I, Vampiri is a unique vampire story, but still on the surface is very much influenced by its predecessors and influences of monster vampire films like Dracula or Frankenstein. Yeah. Like it clearly takes influence from that and then did it. So it was like one of their first, like, we really like this film. It works. Let's do it our way.
Yeah, let's make it Italian.
Yeah, exactly.
Lights.
Yeah, black and white, stress, and who are we? What is life?
I want them to make a color version though, because those are fun.
Yeah,
where they like splash it onto there.
Yeah, they're very good at color. When we flash over to the 70s, this is when we have now favored the sexy mystery thriller subgenre known as Giallo. Yes. What is Giallo? You might be thinking. Yeah. Listener, guess what? I'm going to tell you. It means yellow. That's it. That's what it is.
Cool.
It means yellow in Italian, and that's why it's named. So there were these crime novels from the fascist era Italy that had yellow covers, and that was like in the 60s. And then later there were like mystery novels from America that would be translated into Italian, and they also had like the yellow covers. So that was like Giallo. So kind of like how we talked about the Penny Dreadfuls, right? Like that was an opportunity to talk about these weird like werewolves and stuff. This was that, but like with there's a murderer on the loose. So the film, the Giallo films take its inspiration from the books itself.
Yeah. And were they all from America, or were they from, like, Britain? And
I'm sure they were from all over.
Yeah.
Primarily it was from America, but some of them were even just, like, written there and just had that, because they just took that theme and that shape. So then they adopted that into the actual genre of film. But Giallo isn't just one type of horror film, or even just like, isn't even one type of film at all, but an offshoot of many genres. So like horror, drama, mystery, thriller. But it has a very unique taste, and they're rather easy to identify and differentiate, because they're stylish European murder mystery with candy red gore, bad dubbing, black leather gloves, robes, knives, and point of view shots.
Cool.
And lots of strobing lights and
Yeah,
stress.
they definitely play upon, like, light and sound. Similar, I guess, like, when we saw Suspiria.
Yeah.
It was, like, very, like, everything is happening.
Yes, it's always
time.
happening, yes. They rely on the, like, impact and, like, intensity of, like, bright lurid colors, flashes and splashes of blood, full orchestral scores, picturesque locales, political conspiracies, earnest heroes, and beautiful women stalked by cloaked killers.
Yeah.
Is what they were influenced by. As film scholar Gary Needham points out, the Giallo in its cinematic form is that it appears to be less fixed as a genre than its written counterpart. It functions in a more peculiar and flexible manner as a conceptual category with highly movable and permeable boundaries that shift around. So essentially, it could just fit any genre that would allow that much blood in it. The Giallo genre, although its first film, like Blood and Black Lace, bombed at the box office, it proved to be quite popular. So they were just pumping them out like a bunch. They were just like, this somehow is working somewhere. So we're going to keep it doing.
Like it.
Yeah, so do more? Someone liked it? Do
Sometimes.
more?
In life.
When you least expect it.
Love happens.
It's so true.
And it's for Giallo films.
Yeah. And as they were, like, pumping them out, they always had, like, these really strange sounding titles. I think it's just like, your mind is a something and only I have the key. Like, that's the whole title. Is the entire sentence.
So they're really saying what it's about, making it real clear cut for people.
Yes, you know exactly what you're getting into. But it was generally directed by the heroes of this time. So Dario Argento, Mario Bava, and Lucio Fulci, who later influenced the genres to come, such as the zombie genre films helmed by their sons or relatives. Argento has been said to be Italy's Hitchcock with his unique and memorable style that would stick and influence the genres for years to come, while others, like other filmmakers of the time making Giallo, were not so artistic and were more of like a fun exploitative romp.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of saw that theme, like, when we were researching. It was like, whenever there was a film that they liked from a different place,
yeah,
it would start out real smart and, like, real uniquely Italian and, like, really saying something.
Yeah.
And being extra, and then it would turn into, like, that's why it would stop getting as popular. Like, hey, we did a thing.
Yeah.
Here it is. Look, ha! Someone might like it.
Yeah.
Someone likes it somewhere. Make more.
Yes, exactly. So then they would, like, just run into that. And what's really interesting about the Giallo and what we found was there's a lot of conflicting ideas on how it felt about female representation, right? So, like, you touched on it. There's a lot of abuse of women.
Unlike women.
Unlike the ones that we have experienced in our other horror films, like genres with other foreign films, they are kind of helpless and are solely victims. Even the ones who are supposed to be enemies are victims in a way, and they're just getting slapped around and called stupid. But they're usually
you little idiot.
Yes. But whenever there's a female lead, it does seem like the detective story takes a backseat, and instead they use this as like a weapon to explore female sexuality and psyche, using the thriller elements to reflect like their fragile, like hysteric woman life. Like, oh my God, they're so crazy. Which is just like Blood and Black Lace.
Yeah.
Which just, you know, use the female body for pleasure as like abusive pleasure, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it was very gory and graphic against women. It was interesting.
Yeah.
It's for somebody.
Surprisingly, Giallo became even more sleazy with regular thriller plots now full of graphic violence and sex. And this was like an attempt for them to hold on to the viewerships that they were losing because it wasn't that interesting anymore. Noel Murray of the AV Club website, which I used for a bit of this information, said this about Giallo. Anyone who dives headfirst into the genre will have to be willing to accept that these shiny-looking mood pieces can be exceptionally grim and misanthropic, treating human bodies, and naked female bodies especially, like meat, ripe for the carving. But for those who can appreciate that cinema can be about base stimulation and still be artfully made, Giallo can be fun. If nothing else, it's worth recognizing the genre's pervasive influence from crafty American thrillers like Dressed to Kill and Halloween to more highbrow Into the Night films like Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut. Even the blockbuster The Da Vinci Code is, at its core, a Giallo.
Yeah.
Which I would agree. Later, the Giallo essentially influenced the films that were more sensational and gore-driven, such as the zombie films of the 80s, like Demon and Zombie 2, which we'll talk about Demon, which were definitely inspired by George A. Romero's work, or even the horrific and exploitative mockumentaries featuring African and Amazonian cultures in a degrading, disgusting way, like Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
So
I guess what I got out of it is that it's problematic, but here we are.
yeah, but when in Italy, when in Rome.
Yeah, Rome's in Italy. Whoa! Oh my God!
When in Rome, I could just said that.
Films. Yeah, films. Yeah, films. We watched some films. Now let's talk about those films. And all that spooky stuff. And all that spooky stuff.
All right, so we watch stuff as we do.
Yeah.
I love that we say that every time. Like it's new. Like
Is
you
it?
didn't just hear that entire interlude.
Remember when we said Italian films takes a thing and just makes it already exists, but we make it really unique and new. That's us every time.
Every time.
It's just like, you know, we want to be a little extra just for you. It's for you, listener.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, Italy was hard. It was hard because a lot of the information about their influences were kind of pushed around and not like publicized as much. It was very hard to locate because a lot of it was just like Mussolini was here and then it's just a blackout period of like we don't talk about stuff. And horror, it was really hard for horror to thrive. So finding Giallo, it was just like, wow, this is this very impactful, unique genre that like we have to cover. Like there's no way that we're gonna like gloss, like if we're doing foreign horror, how can we not do this?
Yeah.
And we've talked about Suspiria. We have watched just like randomly Dario Argento films because he's very unique and they stick with you.
I enjoy him.
I do.
I very much enjoy Dario Argento films.
Yes.
It's just fun.
He is fun. He is so fun. We're not going to talk about Suspiria because we already did, but that even has been argued is not a Giallo. It doesn't have exactly the right like qualifications, but it's definitely his style, which is very much influenced by that genre because he pioneered it. Of one of I can't remember the name right now, but the bug film, like the arachnophobia or whatever one.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So
Lots
good.
of bugs. Bugs on bugs on bugs.
Yeah. I would say with Giallo, it was, I really wanted to like it more than I did.
Yeah.
So,
It was tough, yeah. Because it's like we want to be like respectful of all the things. And it's like sometimes it's just not our thing. And
yeah.
I'm sorry.
And and I think mystery thriller is definitely like my favorite thing. And if this was a book, I would be reading it like crazy. I'm one of those like old ladies who reads like the mystery novels about the murder on the train. Love it. Eat it up. I would eat this story up. I was like loving the whole like there's a diary and it's lead into this and it's lead into that. I just like really just wanted the information. I did not want to watch it, which was sad. Yeah. So what we watched was Blood and Black Lace from 1964 because this is like a quintessential Giallo film. It has all of the components, and it is Mario Bava. And I do want one of those cool red mannequins that he has in there.
Yeah, that he definitely had good like setup. I thought it was like really interesting how he set stuff up. It was cool.
Yeah, I definitely want to stand next to a red mannequin while light shines in my face like a colored light and look really suspensefully off into the distance.
Yeah,
it inspired me. Blood and Black Lace from 1964. Here's what it's about. A masked, shadowy killer brutally murders the models of a scandalous fashion house in Rome, which is in Italy, guys.
Cool.
It's directed by Mario Bava. So this film follows these women who work at this fashion company. And it reminded me of Suspiria in that it's like this very unique artistic house that is a home to women of a specific art, right? So it's like instead of dancers, they're fashion.
It's like the second film we watched for that thing.
Yeah, so it's very like art is very important, and I think that's really cool. But this woman gets murdered, and then later it's discovered she had a diary, and everyone wants this diary. 2 women are killed because of this diary, because everyone has secrets, and this girl who died at the beginning knew everyone's secrets. And then it becomes just this, like, snowball effect of, well, I killed this person, now I have to kill this person to keep them quiet. It's like that episode of Black Mirror that was really sad. But it's just like, you just got to keep killing people. And essentially when we were watching, I was like, this is like the little lady who swallowed a fly. And she didn't know why she swallowed the fly, and then she, like, eats a spider, and then she eats a cat, and then she eats a dog until she eats, like, a horse. That's what this film was, but for murders.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and it was... I know you loved it, or you didn't love it. You liked it more than me.
It, though.
You liked it a lot more than I did. And I guess what... I don't know. It was hard for me to follow, and it was... They were murdered so, like, crazy. And it seems like they're also just, like, given subtle moral jabs. Like, to, like, they're in this house, which is already not traditional. And now they are doing these things like drugs or having sex or sex they shouldn't be having, you know, with whatever man or whatever, you know. And there's drugs and abortions and, like, money and... secrets and causing all the murder. And, I mean, it was intriguing, I guess, but it was also just like, what's wrong with the fact she's staying with that guy from my 2019 lens?
Yes. Yeah.
This movie's from the 60s.
Yeah, there's definitely like an entire plot where a girl, she took the book, the diary, because there's it's written in there about her abortion. Yeah. And I'm like, well, it's happened a long time ago. I don't feel like the police would say anything. Like, it was kind of crazy to me that she was, like, burning this book because of that. But given the time, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, you think back to, like, not Grease. I'm saying the wrong film. What is it called? Dirty Dancing. Yes. Penny's in Trouble. Was that who it was? Yes. Yeah. So, like... how it had to be like back alley. It's kind of Real Handmaid's Tale right in there now. You know, but yeah, that kind of like stress around the moral aspect of it and just like the social aspect of it from that time period was interesting.
Yeah, and it was definitely very prevalent in there. What I really enjoyed, so there's this like switch up where all the men are in jail because they're under suspicion. And so then a murder happens, and so they're all released. Well, the murder that happens is drastically different from the rest of the murders we saw because they were very violent and aggressive and just bloody and gory and just crazy. Like, one woman, her face is just smushed onto this, like, this thing that's, like, really hot, so it, like, burns her face off. And then versus the murder that happens there, which is, like, she just gets a pillow on her face,
she's like
and it's a struggle.
Smothered.
Yeah. And then it turns out, spoilers, again, this film was from 1964, so you've had time. Spoilers that there's the woman who runs the house is helping her partner, who is the murderer this whole time.
Husband.
Yeah. And that's why it was different. And I thought the attention to that detail was super interesting to me. Because, like, if I were reading the book and that part came up, because even when it happened, I was like, that's a very drastically different killing style.
I remember you, like, being like, he's not very good at smothering her. Like, you critiqued his suffocation talent.
It was very bad. And I was like, this is not right.
She's moving all around. Oh, she's not doing a good, or whoever, they're not doing a good job.
It was super out of character for me. So it was cool to see that there was a reason for that. But for a Giallo film, right, it had the color, it had the fashion, it has the gore. It's the masked man. He's got this, like, white cloth on his face, so we never know. And a hat. Yeah. Like, he looks like a mysterious
like a trench coat
man.
with a hat, yeah.
It's super cool. And yeah, it just definitely felt like it was a detective downtown, and she came in and she changed my life. Like, that I can hear this as an audio drama, instead of watching it.
And it was interesting to me because it definitely seemed like the Giallo, like, had the detective as, like, the front seat.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it was, like, weird for me, because that's what I was expecting. And then it really was the story of the murders and the women.
Yeah.
And then the detective happened to already also be there.
And there was a point
I don't think he gets, like, a resolve. He's just like, the movie's over.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a time where it looked like that was going to happen, and I got really excited, because he's like, hey, if she was murdered at this time in the AM, and this is how long it takes you to get from point A to point B, and blah, blah, blah. And he eventually was just like, so as a resolution, what I've come up with is that none of you can be exempt. None of you have an alibi, so I'm going to lock you all up. And that was his thing. Like, he didn't have, like, an actual... He wasn't like, I figured it out. It was just like, anything. It could be anyone. It could be anyone. Yeah. And it was kind of like... It kind of let me down. But with what made Giallo films popular is this very unique style, and taking, like, these, like, stressful and exciting, lurid mystery tales and bringing them to life with all this color and with this action and with this drama is exactly what was needed for the time. But it also has dub, which is very important, because unlike our other films, the dub didn't feel like as important or as impactful to the film as these ones did. Like, they're very known for having oddly weird, bad dub. Yeah. And a fun fact is that most of the male characters were dubbed by Paul Frees for the American release of the film. So we're getting one male voice that just is doing different. And that I was wondering, I was like, why can't I tell the difference from any of these men? they all look different. You did comment
on that, which is funny. So that is a really fun fact.
Yeah. But yeah, it has a lot of really cool things in there. But it's crazy. It's definitely its whole thing. But that's the Giallo is what influenced the later realm of gory films that were also very popular in Italy, which is what inspired us to watch
Demons or Demoni. I think. I don't know.
I think it was Demons.
I saw one time where there was an eye.
Oh, maybe.
Or maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, so this Demons, 1985, a group of random people are invited to a screening of a mysterious movie, only to find themselves trapped in the theater with ravenous demons. So yeah, the director is Lamberto Bava. Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, exactly. So we watched Mario Bava, and then we watched his son Lamberto, who was accompanied by Dario Argento.
Yeah, so the screenplay is Dario Argento's screenplay. He's the one who wrote it. And then the director was Lamberto Bava.
Yeah. It's a weird nepotism, which I guess is what we would get around it, but it's kind of cute nepotism, because Argento also had people who are still creating films.
Yeah, and I will say I like this one a lot more. I don't know if it was really a Giallo.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I loved it. I thought it was so funny. And I just, it was like, it was scary at times too. Because like the way they went about everything, they took it seriously. It was actually like more graphic than I expected it to be.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
very Suspiria-like in the way that they used the music and, like, the brightness and the drama.
And the weird, like, the very interesting and unique, like, plot, like, not plot, set pieces and set design. It's all very Italian. Mm-hmm. To say the least.
Yeah, and they actually use the theater that they use in the film in real life as, like, a horror.
I want to go.
Like, what's it called? Horror conventions. They
Oh
host
my
several
gosh,
horror conventions.
let's go.
But it's in Berlin.
Someone
actually.
invite us. First class tickets. Let's go. Yeah, it's
Perks.
so cool. So Demons is the films in the 80s that were influenced by American slasher films and the zombie films like George A. Romero. So it was just like, oh, this is the type of film that works. Let's do our version of it. And they did. They did their version of it. But it definitely had like their Italian feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really loved it. And it was just like, you didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Like, I remember when it led up very slowly.
Yes.
So you're sitting in the theater, the girl who you're like, why is this who she's with?
The square.
The weird guy. No. The two innocent girls, who I don't know how you both are like hyper innocent. You have the first hyper innocent girl, and then you're like, all right, she's gonna have a sassy friend.
Who's also very innocent.
And then she goes up there and her friend's just kind of mad and is also maybe arguably more innocent than her.
Yeah. She didn't like horror movies.
But she was very pretty. We commented on that.
Yeah, she looked like Megan Fox, in my opinion.
Yeah, so they like go into this film after receiving a little card from a mysterious half-masked stranger.
He was very terrifying. I don't know why the square would have taken that card and thought it was fun.
Yeah, no. I don't know why she ended up there. It goes against her character development entirely. Yeah, she was scared to walk to half of a dark alley under a subway platform. Which, I mean, is scary. But...
You don't take pamphlets from strangers and go to weird art houses.
Yeah. So she brings her friend, and there's these guys there. There's this, like, two women who are, like, arguably, like, some of the only people of color. With... a gentleman who is also a person of color.
Yeah, there's a black woman, a black man, and a Hispanic woman.
Yes. So they're interesting how they portray.
Yeah. It's
those people.
Dynamic that is questionable at the very least. It definitely seems like it could be seen as the fact that he's quite possibly their pimp and they are working girls, or they have a very strange friendship.
Yeah, it was real weird. But then it starts out with that. So essentially, their weird dynamic, the one woman putting the mask on her face and it cutting her, and then they're watching a film in the theater about someone putting a mask on their face and cutting themselves with it. And then they all just go crazy and turn into zombies. So it was just really fun. I wasn't expecting it to go that way. I heard demons and I was like, all right, paranormal, ready for it. And then it was just full-on zombie apocalypse. Somehow a helicopter gets hauled in there.
Oh, my God.
I don't even, like...
It's so crazy.
I'll be honest, I took my medicine at the end. So, like, towards the end, I was like...
What is this?
All I know is that this is great music. Which is the goth.
Yeah.
Techno.
Yeah, techno-goth, which is right now my favorite type of music right now.
It was great.
They play... Yeah. They play some really good... They play really great music. But it's... The film, so it's where they go to see a film, right? And what I thought was really, really cool is that we go into the film. Like, we start watching the film. Like, it just becomes the primary film. Yeah. Which is super cool. And in that film, it's like a bunch of teenagers, and they're going to this, like, abandoned grave or something. And it's Nostradamus's grave, which was super weird. Like, it was a weird, weird obsession with Nostradamus. And they were like, he's buried here, and he has secrets, and all this stuff. And it's like, what did it...
What lore is this from?
Yeah, like, why is he this impactful? But yeah, so there's like the mirroring of the violence and the demons in the film, and they come to life. There's no real understanding of how that happened. Because there's a girl who's like an usher who works there, but she has no idea, and she ended up dying horrifically. And I was really hoping that, like, she would have like...
And she was like weird the whole time,
She was weird in the beginning and then immediately was like, what is this?
I think if anyone went through this film with a fine-tooth comb looking for plot holes...
You could find them.
There were so many. One being that if the mask is what does this, how are zombies everywhere now?
Well, because the one guy got out. Because it's not just a mask. It's when you get cut or scratched or anything, you then become a zombie.
Okay.
And there's a guy who escaped when the weird punk kids got in to hide from cops. So there's also this like weird. So we're trapped in the theater with these people who are being traumatized by demon zombies, and then outside for like 30 minutes we keep cutting back to these kids who are just snorting coke out of a Coke can and like are essentially just out of a Billy Idol music video, and they are listening to Billy Idol, but they are doing like crazy weird punk kid stuff, and then they end up at the theater. But that's like 30 minutes before they end up to the theater, and it's just cutting back and forth where you're like, are these our unsung heroes?
Yeah, it was really confusing.
That's
in that
not
way.
at all.
Fun fact, the scene where they spilled the Coke in the car was so controversial that it was censored in a lot of places.
What?
So they just like took that whole scene out.
That's so funny. It was a very interesting thing
boobs,
to throw in.
Drugs.
Yeah. I don't feel like we didn't need their backstory.
Who cares about the murder and blood?
Yeah.
They had Coke in that can.
Well, they
but
also
not the
did
kind that we have here.
Her boobs, so
yeah,
it was a little X-rated. But I don't think we needed their whole backstory to understand why the door got opened. That could have been anybody.
Yeah, it was weird. It was interesting.
Yeah, my other issue was that there's this whole point where they like bust through this wall to get further inside. Like, they're trying to escape, and they get into this, like, one room, and there's nothing. It's, like, nothing. There's no reason.
It's just walls.
And then it's just walls, and then all of the women
just
are hysterical. Like, the word hysterical that people would put onto women to say that they can't do anything and we need to lock them up, that's the way that all of those women were reacting.
They just
it was so
shrieking.
weird.
It was
like,
very strange.
Instantly, like, they saw walls, and they lost it. And then the men were the calm ones being like, oh, we got to go back. And they're just like hysterical. And I was just like, you're still doing it. You're still doing it, Italy.
Yeah, it was
stronger
weird.
women, please.
But I did really enjoy the film. I will say that. It was funny as anything. I don't think it was maybe intended to be funny. But I mean, there were parts where I felt scared. Like when the first transformations are happening, they did a really good job with
really
like
gross.
The gore and like the way that they transformed. Like it didn't look as hokey as I expected it to. Like when the teeth were falling out, I was
it was so bad.
Why? I was like had my face in my shirt and was screaming. So that was good. They did a good job. Yeah,
they had very good gore, and it was an interesting story that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, feelings. Yeah, I said feelings. Let's talk about feelings. Okay. And all that spooky stuff. I love spooky stuff.
Yeah. If you didn't know, that was our a cappella version of goth techno.
So, fun fact, if you type into YouTube, goth techno, demons, Dario Argento, and scroll to the Demons trailer, Dario Argento, you will hear the real version of that, and it is fun.
It's really great. It really put the whole film into focus.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't even care what we watched. I love this film. Mm-hmm. I was like, immediately, every time the music happened, I was like, why is the music gone? You said it too. You're like, aw.
Yeah, because
the music really added. Like, I want it back. Why is it quiet now?
Yes, every time it left for like conversation or something, I was honestly sad. Because it really, really put it into it. It was just like, it like pumped you up. Like nothing else was happening. You're just walking, but you were like, dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Like, I'm ready for whatever's happening here.
Yeah.
So yeah, goth techno for it.
And
100%.
That's super Argento. Like, he used Goblin for a lot of his films, not just Suspiria. But he understood the importance of having like the music in there. Right?
Yeah.
He's so
beautiful.
cool.
That was really cool. That was fun. So yeah.
All right, so if you like it, it's dun, 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 dun,
Dun, dun,
dun, dun,
dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun.
and if you don't like it, it's which is super. This is the most fun we've done in one of our rating systems, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's my favorite by far.
So for Italian film, not just specifically Giallo, but Italian horror films.
So like the second one we watched, if that's like a lot of them, like I like Suspiria, I liked that one, so I'm gonna go. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it's tough because I have read a lot about Salo, and we didn't watch it because, we just are honest with ourselves and where our limits are, and that film was my limit. And I understand that's very important and that it's impactful, but stuff like that and Cannibal Holocaust and some of the other exploitative mockumentaries
Yeah, no, those aren't cool. That's
make
a hard.
me really, really upset.
It's a hard.
Yeah. So there's a part of me that's like, no. As far as Italian cinema goes, there is some really, really good foundational work that's throughout there that I, as a film person, have to, pay respect to. But yeah, with Giallo, I really just want to read those Giallos.
Yeah.
I want to read them. I do enjoy, I think I could just, have them on in the background, and I would love to see, to glance over and see some weird colors happening. I want to live in one of those houses that has, a lot of bright colors and lots of stripes.
When just every one of your rooms is a different bright color.
And, lots of black and white, furniture. It just looks like, what's it called? Beetlejuice. The house in Beetlejuice is essentially a Giallo film.
Giallo themed birthday party.
Absolutely. Just Giallo themed life. With that, I did
without the murder.
Yeah, without the murder and the mystery. The other films, yeah, I'm still down to watch them. So it's but yeah, I'm glad we did.
Yeah, no, I'm happy we did it. And it's just I acknowledge why I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. Why I did.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
And, respect for it.
Yeah.
It's just maybe not going to always be my thing.
Yeah, I enjoy the creativity of Blood and Black Lace and the really, really unique way that it told a story.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that just from, a filmmaking standpoint. But also just, as a person who loves thrillers, I do wish there was more. And I wish there were more recent films that were made in the Giallo, frame of mind. If you have a suggestion for a film that's more recent, so it'd have, a little more things that I can get down with, the representation of women have improved, let me know, because I do want to watch them.
Yeah. It's just, an interesting and I think very uniquely Italian thing that it would be cool to see it done in a more modern lens, just because then maybe we would understand it a little bit more. I feel like when you're looking back, it's always a little hard to fully get why.
Yeah. And I saw, it does seem like they kind of, so the 60s with Giallo, their 80s with their slasher, and then even a little into the 90s. But I haven't seen a lot of Italian horror that is doing that has its own unique thing, and it's doing it now. Mm-hmm. But I also was looking in the past, so it could be there, and I just don't know. But if any suggestions are welcome.
Yeah, send us a message, ghoulsnextdoor.com.
Yep, or the ghoulsnextdoor@gmail.com, and all the social medias. But
say words to us.
Yeah, this has been our foreign horror episode. The whole series now. We've done 4. If you haven't heard, we've done Japanese, French, and Korean, as well as this one. So if you haven't heard those, check them out. And then definitely let us know if you have any suggestions or what your thoughts were, if you enjoyed any of these specifically. We love hearing about it.
Mm-hmm. And then if there's things you want us to do in the future. Yeah,
absolutely. We got another really cool series coming up for you that I'm very excited about. And I'm not going to tell you about it. It's going to be a surprise.
Okay.
Well, but they don't know.
Like a twist, like a Giallo Thriller?
It is a thriller. It's going to thrill you all.
Beautiful.
You're going to be so excited. But in the meantime, remember, don't get married. They'll eat your kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they'll grow up and do something scandalous, like have sex, and then you have to murder them.
Yeah. That sounds like what they do.
And the little...
Our kids.
The little old killer who killed the girl. I don't know why he killed the girl.
But he did.
So he killed another girl to hide that girl. Okay.
Dun, 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 dun.
Just so you know, this show is about scary stuff. So don't say I didn't warn you guys. And remember, don't be scared.
Murderous Minors brings true tales of children who have killed. Premeditated murders, accidental killings and deaths, from toddlers to 18-year-old killers, no one is too young to take a life. Join me, War Baby, as I try to tell these stories of the young who've killed, the lives they took, and even the ones who've been left behind. Why do children kill? What do we do with young killers? And do they kill again? Until next time, don't be scared.